This video was made possible by my diamond level patron, FaolanCortez. You can commission your own review right now over on my Patreon page. Okay, so I know this video is unexpected, and when it showed up on my commissions, I had no idea how to approach it. I am not a My Little Pony fan, and growing up with early 2010s internet culture, I only ever saw the dark side of the fanbase. The franchise itself is only worth $4.99 billion, which sounds like a lot, but is actually less than things like Ben 10 and Space Invaders. Despite this, everyone is aware of My Little Pony. You show a random person an alien from Ben 10, it could be from anything. Show them Twilight Sparkle and they'll go, yeah, that's My Little Pony. Also, why are you showing me a picture of Twilight Sparkle? Get out of my house. Pretty much the main reason everyone knows this franchise is because of the dedicated adult fanbase known as bronies. These fans essentially became defined by the more extreme members who sleep with body pillows and spend their time filling jars up with certain fluids. If you know, you know. They essentially had the same kind of infamy that furries have nowadays, where there's a negative perception of the entire community. But what actually is My Little Pony? Well, at its core, it's a simple kids show about a group of different types of ponies coming together and having adventures, with the usual morals and concepts you'd expect. I mean, it's literally called Friendship is Magic. The franchise is divided into different generations, each marking a change in style and focusing on a new cast of characters in a separate universe. However, the fifth incarnation of the franchise would be set in the same world as the fourth, leading to the 2021 movie A New Generation, where a brand new group of protagonists are inspired to go on their own journey of friendship and magic. However, it's my belief that this film goes so much deeper than that. It's a dark and damning tale of racism and bigotry, showing the power and importance of younger people working together to overturn generations of stigma and harmful misinformation. The New Generation is actually a scathing critique of modern society. I know how that sounds, but bear with me because it has a hell of a lot of social commentary hiding underneath its childish exterior. The movie is set in the future where the events of Friendship is Magic have faded into myth. The three races now fear and avoid each other. I guess you could say they just can't seem to get along. Their society has become underlined by a deep paranoia and fear of other races, with Earth Pony historians and teachers perpetuating lies and stereotypes about unicorns and Pegasi. Sunny Star Scout and her doomed wholesome dad are the only exceptions, staunch believers in these old tales of coexistence and magic. The film goes out of its way to show that Sunny isn't wrong to go against the grain. She manages to stick to her open-minded beliefs even when those around her try to force their own bigoted views onto her. She's an outcast in society, which further illustrates the crippling isolationism and xenophobia of her people. This misinformation and moral panic is so deep-rooted that even she herself has biases and belief stereotypes. She still thinks her beloved unicorns can read minds and shoot laser beams because that's all she's ever been told. Years of lies and stereotypes have warped her tiny pony brain and made her casually racist in a way, because she simply doesn't know any different. Like a game of telephone, the truth has been twisted and misconstrued over the years, so she has no reason to doubt all these abilities, having never met a unicorn to prove otherwise. Her asking Izzy all these questions and asking for demonstrations of magic is kind of like asking a black person if you can touch their hair. It's not a conscious act of ignorance, but it's still fueled by that lack of familiarity and knowledge, which therefore makes it problematic. There's no reason to treat someone different because of minor things.
We look exactly the same! Except for this, of course.
Around 20 minutes into the movie, we're introduced to Izzy Moonbow, a hyperactive and playful unicorn who immediately creates chaos by showing up in Maritime Bay. On the surface, this scene is a fun action sequence with comedic moments, but its main intention is to highlight the absurdity of the fear and paranoia of the residents. These lies have festered for generations and corrupted a peaceful townsfolk into a hateful and terrified mob who fear anything different. Years of isolation have formed these radical perceptions of unicorns, preventing even basic social communication. They can't pick up on simple cues to notice that Izzy isn't a threat because all their lives they've been taught to fear these exact moments. The unicorn bouncing around and treating it like a game exposes how ludicrous this moral panic is. They're not just scared of what they believe she can do, they're scared that she isn't doing it, because truly their biggest fear is acknowledging they're wrong and that their entire belief system is baseless. Their society is built off of bigotry. It funds their economy through devices and movie franchises. Being proven wrong would be catastrophic and throw their society into meltdown. It's something we see later on in the sprawling corporate utopia of Zephyr Heights, which is filled by cleverly integrated fake product placements to reflect the reality of this world. On the surface, Zephyr Heights is a paradise, but in truth it's a fragile dystopia held together by the lies of the ruling family. They fake the ability to fly in order to maintain power and standing above their citizens, and the pop star princess Pip Petals is the public figurehead, the connection between rulers and population. This carefully maintained public image is their only way to keep power. So as soon as Pip's concert descends into chaos and the lies exposed, the whole of Pegasi society melts down and goes into free-for-all. The monarchy becomes public enemy number one, getting cancelled by their people, who now want them arrested for deceit. It's a sobering look at how quickly celebrities can fall out of favour, no matter how carefully controlled and maintained their public persona is. Don't you just hate it when you try to steal a magic crystal from a crown and accidentally expose a monarchy's dark secret, in turn throwing an entire society into disarray by making them doubt everything they've ever known? Yeah, I hate Mondays too. The Earth pony equivalent of the Pegasi royal family is Phyllis Cloverleaf, who has built an empire by selling conspiracy nut technology like tinfoil hats. For a world full of anthropomorphic magical ponies, it does hit a little close to home, doesn't it? People genuinely hold these kinds of black and white beliefs, showing how easily corrupted the population is when people take advantage of our consumerist society to push their own agendas and prejudices. Phyllis has indoctrinated this entire race into living a fearful existence. By making them fear brainwashing, they themselves have been brainwashed, which is symbolised by all these ponies wearing identical antenna hats. There have been decades of deep-rooted racism and segregation. It cannot be changed overnight with one speech from Sunny. That's how severe these issues are. Sociopolitical change has to be a concerted group effort with multiple generations banding together, which is the story of this movie. Sunny cannot change these worldviews alone, so she has to form a ragtag group of others. First of all, there's Izzy, the only cheery unicorn in the forest, once again subverting expectations and disproving assumptions. Throughout the movie, she's constantly upbeat and the definition of, well, at least she's got the spirit. This lulls you into a warped sense of what her fellow unicorns are like, purposefully making you develop assumptions about a whole race only to prove you wrong because it's unethical to base your entire perception about a race around one singular person or experience. The other main member of the team is Zip, the Pegasi princess voiced by, oh god. Zip is unique because she comes from a place of wealth and privilege, yet isn't morally corrupt and wants unity. It's proof that everyone has the ability to coexist. It's not just a narrative about race, but also about class. It's time for a musical interlude. The New Generation is a musical, and I detest musicals with every ounce of my being. Unless it's American Idiot with its cute punk GFs and an introspective coming-of-age storyline, I have absolutely no room in my cold dead heart for musicals, so this movie completely loses me whenever it breaks out into song. The musical scenes are well edited and animated, allowing the animators to flex their creative muscles with locations and visuals, but pretty much all the actual songs are bad, except the opening number. Musicals are just very stunted narratives that suffer from the need to transition into a song every 10 minutes before getting back to the plot. But that's actually thematically important, because the music is a distraction. It obscures the real issues. When the main characters break into song, they're hiding from the reality of their world. They retreat into this idealized world where everything is happy and colourful, because that's their form of escapism, how they cope. Which is exactly how we treat media in our own world. So yeah, I hate the musical numbers, but they actually work. Three friends can't change the world, even if they do represent each major race in a fictional society. Sure, they stumble upon the long-lost magical crystal MacGuffins that can restore magic and harmony, but they need complete cooperation from people with power and influence like Pip and Hitch, whose influence is shown as he constantly finds himself accruing critter followers. These two characters don't have the same overbearing optimism as the other main characters, so they're representative of a more realistic society. Hitch believes in the existing ways not because he himself is a bigot, he does want to help, but he's been shaped by society and feels a responsibility to look after his own people first and foremost. The movie actually misses a beat by not overtly focusing on these realistic shades of morality, since he almost immediately changes his mind and joins the mission. However, Hitch's main contribution is actually his absence from Maritime Bay. Because he's gone, his useless deputy Sprout takes control with the encouragement of his mother, none other than Phyllis, with the town descending into a police state full of mob mentality and the belief that being louder makes you right. This is a stark look at the state of the internet and places like Twitter, which are echo chambers full of toxicity and people dogpiling on anyone who presents a differing opinion or provides evidence refuting a false claim. It's just kind of awkward though that the cringeworthy musical number establishing all this also perpetuates further mainstream discrimination against rock music. The movie is all about acceptance and fighting prejudice, yet it applies the same old long-standing stereotypes of rock music being linked to violence and hatred, villainising the genre and the people who enjoy it, which flies in the face of the themes and the narrative. After a long time away, Frodo and Sam return to the Shire to find it has been destroyed and corrupted by Saruman. Wrong franchise. Sonny and Hitch return to Maritime Bay only to find Sprout has become a full-blown dictator, arming the population for war against the other three races. Wow, would you look at that? When the seemingly harmless idiot gets power, they become a huge threat. Almost sounds like at least 2 major Western powers in the last 5 years. Phyllis now has to face the consequences of her own actions, witnessing the monster she created. She's been radicalising her son all his life, finding it easy to tell these fear-mongering tales about other races. Sure, it seemed harmless enough at the time, but over the years, this fear and hatred of others festered and grew, so the moment he gains a semblance of power, he becomes consumed by these ideologies and falls into extremism. This is rooted in the same world we live in, as normal everyday people commit atrocities after being influenced by mouthpieces, politicians and conspiracy theorists. These figureheads are motivated by personal greed and power. Phyllis was responsible for creating this atmosphere, but immediately backs down when it goes too far because she was only doing it for personal gain. The other 2 races had a similar fear of outsiders, but Maritime Bay is the only place where there is an entire industry based around these racial tensions. Phyllis made the conscious decision to take advantage of the political climate to sell products in order to gain personal wealth and power. It was easy to perpetuate hatred for races she never expected to meet, so now she has to face the realities of her actions in the form of her own son, who is a genocidal dictator funded by her factories. It's a stark warning about the responsibility of those people in power to be careful about the effects of their messaging and influence. It's up to them to prevent this kind of extremism manifesting to begin with, since they're the root cause of such hatred and never get punished for it, which, funnily enough, is exactly how the end plays out. Phyllis is able to hide from her part in all of this and avoid repercussions, just like how Sprout isn't arrested or punished for his abuse of power, which is almost uncomfortably realistic. One of the other core themes in A New Generation is the power of friendship, but this doesn't work nearly as well as all the socio-political commentary. The theme runs throughout as the protagonists band together to find the 3 magical crystals scattered throughout the world like some kind of video game. This plot is incredibly weak and contrived, especially with the second crystal, which is being kept by literal alpha chat. They randomly bring in a DDR machine and everything just feels so tacked on. Even the solution feels sudden, as Sunny immediately works out how to win the final round. It's framed like she needs to just feel the music, so it would make more sense if she had been dancing around at the beginning of the movie, making her overconfident in this first round of the DDR battle, then the failure making her too self-conscious in the second. That would have made the feeling the music turnaround work a lot better and also fit more in line with the friendship and belief part in the story as her friends inspire her. As it stands though, it just kind of drifts from the intended message of unity within the new generation because Sunny does it alone and the others just exist in the background. Unlike the rest of the movie, this segment of the crystal isn't a collaborative effort. It also doesn't help that Bridalwood feels like a complete afterthought in comparison to Zephyr Heights. It's like they ran out of time, so it's not interesting. And also, despite being a group of smart ponies, everything falls apart because the magic doesn't come back with 2 crystals. Sunny quitting in the generic Todorov narrative disruption. Somehow, after all this, they didn't take the moment to think, well hold on, there's 3 of us and 3 major civilizations. If we got a crystal from the first 2, maybe there'll be another in the third. It doesn't take much brainpower to put 3 and 3 together. The climax of the movie further falls apart as it devolves into a big fight between a mecha and a lighthouse. Pretty much the whole cast useless as it all comes down to Sunny and Izzy.
It didn't work.
Well, that was dark. No, but for real, the movie ends with a literal, the real magic was the friends we made along the way. I guess it works when the previous iteration of the franchise was literally called friendship is magic, so I'll give it a pass for once. It's nice to see them all come together at the end, and I like the montage of magic returning to the world. It feels like a very rewarding payoff, finally getting all these races coexisting just as Sunny's dad always wanted. But like with the DDR, it's very sudden and conflicts with earlier messages. From the very beginning there was a focus on change not happening overnight, but then the movie ends with change happening overnight. It completely muddles the whole concept of the narrative. And the worst part is that it's easily fixed. You don't need them all immediately coexisting. You should just end the film with the promise of future relations, since these kinds of rebuilds need to be done in waves, gradually phasing things out and repairing trust. Or, you know, you can just use the magic of the Triforce and everyone lives happily ever after. I never thought I would say this, but My Little Pony: A New Generation is a hard-hitting social commentary all about prejudice. Obviously this hoof-based society makes no sense with their ability to use stuff like pen and paper, but I guess we'll just chalk that up to them living in a post-apocalyptic Earth or something. I went into this film not expecting to care because of years of negative preconceptions and prejudices about the franchise. This is the entire point of the movie. It challenges you to overcome your negative beliefs and opinions in order to develop a more understanding and accepting worldview. People hold very harmful and closed-minded beliefs about anything, so shifting these kinds of conversations into this kind of context provides a lot of important lessons for young viewers about the world around them. It's a bridge between old and new, acknowledging the previous iteration of the franchise whilst passing the torch by continuing the spirit and showing that change can be a good thing. Something which is also represented by the change from 2D to a more modern, trendy 3D animation style. In this day and age, almost everything is trying to send some kind of message or provide some level of commentary. But to be honest, sometimes the best comes from the last place you'd expect. And that is exactly how My Little Pony: A New Generation managed to become the most hard-hitting socio-political satire of 2021. And I'd like to give an extra special thank you to my diamond level patron FaolanCortez and all my gold level patrons: Alex Marston, Basil Disco PhD, Calvin, Daniel Shillito, Francois aka Line Vortex, George, Sion Wagner, and Stefan Never Miller. Thank you so much for your support.